Hi guys, welcome to this module on Microsoft PowerPoint. In this session we're going to look at how to create some basic slides and navigate through those slides. So first of all, when you open PowerPoint, you're usually presented with a title slide. So in this example we are going to create 3 slides about the Battle of Waterloo. So there it says click to add title, but you don't actually need to click. You can just start typing. It then says click to add subtitle. Again, you don't need to do that. You can use a key command, which is Control and Enter, which will move you down to the next text box. Type in the date of the Battle of Waterloo, June the 18th, 1815. Now I need a new slide. Now there are several options here. I could click New Slide. I could use a Control and M key, or I could try Control Enter again. Because there isn't a text box on that first slide, it creates a new slide and a new text box. So now title for this one is British Forces. Control Enter to come down. 3 points on a slide is what I usually recommend. Press Enter. Now if you want an indent, you can press Tab, or you can click these 2 buttons to indent or decrease indent, increase indent at the top there. So guards is a sub bullet. Press Enter. Now I want to go back to a main bullet. Shift Tab will take me back, or I can click this decrease indent. Next guy on the list, Picton. Enter Tab, Infantry. Enter Shift Tab, and then Uxbridge, who lost his leg at Waterloo. Cavalry. And I normally recommend 3 points to a slide, and on the slide you don't write a large chunk of text because it is off-putting to people that's watching the presentation. These should be prompts for you to deliver your presentation. This is a tool to help you deliver a presentation. It is not the presentation. Next slide, Control Enter, French Forces. Control Enter, Napoleon. Enter Tab, Guards. Enter Shift Tab, Marshal Ney. Enter Tab, Cavalry. Enter Shift Tab, and the next guy is in charge of the artillery. Enter Tab, Artillery, and there's my 3 slides. Now to save this, Control S. It's picking up the title Waterloo. It's going into my documents. That's okay. So save, and it drops it in there. There's your title. Now down the left hand side you have what's called a mini preview of your slides, where you can, if you need to, reposition these by just simply dragging and letting go. If you want that slightly larger, you can expand that, or even smaller, whichever you prefer. Now down the bottom you have a notes area. Again, you can expand that or reduce it. There is a button here to click that on or off. If you know it's there, you can just drag the screen up like that. Now notes is where you, in my mind, you add the detail of your presentation. So I'm going to use these 2 buttons here, or this one, numbered list 1. So when Wellington comes on the screen, I want to say this: born 1769, 1852 he died, born in Dublin. When the second one comes up, Picton, shot in head. Third one comes up, lost leg. So that's what I want to say, or I want other people to say if I send this to other people to deliver, as a bare minimum. And again, I've seen PowerPoint presentations where there is absolutely loads and loads of text here in the notes. and people are expected to either memorize or read those notes. It detracts from delivering the presentation if you're stopping to look down to read your notes. So I always recommend people try and memorize what they have to say and use these as a prompt. Now, once you've finished with the notes, you can click it off, show more of the slide, and then you can look at this side again. Let's have a look at this. If I click this button here, this next button, which says normal, which is the view that we've got at the moment, and then again, it shows me what's called outline, slide outline view. So this view is what you can use to move text from one slide to another. Now I know you can copy and paste, but this is what this is for. And you can also, if you're just typing text onto a slide, you can create slides very quickly by using this view. Now, for example, if Napoleon and Guards should have been on this slide, I've clicked on it there to select it and then simply drag it up into the position that you would like it to go. Now I'm going to do Ctrl Z for undo because I don't want that, but let me just show you how this would work if you was typing slides quickly. So if I press enter there and then do Shift Tab and again Shift Tab, I create a slide. I type, I press enter, I tab, it becomes a bullet, enter, a bullet, enter, Shift Tab, a slide, and so on. Enter, tab. So you can very quickly, if you're a touch typist, you can very quickly create your slides through that. So I'm just going to delete those off and click that one back to normal, and let's get rid of that. The next one along is slide sorter view, which is very similar to the mini preview that we have already looked at. You can move your slides around in this view. Obviously you would see a lot more slides, and if I zoom that down, if you had 100 slides you could see quite a few of them by just zooming that down, or you can again adjust it like that. Now you'd also see if there was any animation on any of these slides, which there isn't at the moment, you would get a little symbol under each slide which you would be able to click, and it would give you a mini preview of what the animation was or the transition was for that slide. Now to get back into normal view, I could click this button, normal, or you could just double click on any slide and it will bring you back into normal view. The next button along the bottom is reading view, which shows this as a book, and you have a set of navigation arrows to take you through the pages like a book. And then you still got the other buttons there like so. So I'll come back down to normal. And then the last one of these group of buttons in the corner is Slideshow. When you click that one, it puts the whole thing into presentation view, which you should always check before you save and deliver this, because sometimes it looks great on your computer, but when you put it into a projector or a TV, it doesn't always look the same. So always check. Finish it off, it comes back down to where you started from. The key command to do that is the F5 function key, which I've just pressed. While it is in full screen, you can press the B key, and that will pause and black the screen, and press B again, it will show the screen, or W to white the screen, and W again, and then escape to come back down. Now if you're on a particular slide and you wanted to have a look at that particular slide, the key command for that would be Shift F5, and you would go into full screen on that slide, and again escape. So that's how you create your basic slide. So the tip there is 3 points to each slide, and if you can, 3 points to a presentation, because we do not remember 10 points, so it's no point giving people 10 points. People probably just about remember 3 points. So that's my advice. Don't clutter the slides with lots of text. Use your notes, and then don't clutter the notes with lots of information. Keep it simple so people can read quickly what they need to see. So that's the end of this session. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. In this tutorial we're going to look at formatting the slide background, looking at slide designs, and putting pictures into the slide background. So first of all, we have 3 slides about the Battle of Waterloo. French Forces, British Forces. Design, at the top is where all the themes are located. So these are all pre-formatted design themes. These ones at the top are custom designs that I have created, and this one is the default office design that you have when you open PowerPoint. But first of all, I want to create a background color myself, so I'm going over to this side and click on Format Background. Now you've got some options here to format the background, so solid fill, select a color from there, blue, format background. Next slide, gradient fill. So different styles, you can have preset styles. You've got linear, radial, etc. From there you can select, and I'll put it on radial. Direction, like that, and then these gradient stops. So I'm just going to pull a couple of these off and start from scratch. So you click where you would like the position to be, so there, and then you change the color, so you create a gradient from that point. So I'll go dark blue, then I'll click another one, and then I'll pick a different color. That's quite nice. And then another one, I'll pick red, and that's how that works. So very unique and pretty background. Now on this one, I'm going to use a picture. This is not a picture on the actual slide, it's a picture in the background, so sometimes these can get stretched. What is shown first off is the textures that have been around for years and years and years. These are textures, and this is a fossil fish, but none of these are any of these. I'm not going to use any of these. I'm going to use a picture. So a picture from File, and then I have to find photos that I want to use, which is going to be Photos Waterloo, and that one maybe, Charge of the Scots Greys at Waterloo. Now when you put a picture in the background and that one doesn't look too stretched, you can see that it's clashing with the text. So what you can do is use this transparency bar to fade that out a bit, so it's more of a background, like that, and then you get the best of both worlds. But like I said in the previous section, always check in full screen whether that's going to work or not, and that does work actually, so that's quite good. I quite like that myself. Press escape to come back down. So that's you doing the backgrounds on all these different slides. Now if you apply a theme, a preset theme from this list, that is going to clash or potentially clash with your background. So if I click on this one, which is a dark theme, what's happened here? Let's get rid of ideas. So my first slide, it's just moved that up. It's not too intrusive. The second slide, it's turned that black and moved the font all over the place. So that's gone a bit messy. And then you've got this little black blob coming out of the side. And then this one, it hasn't really changed it too much. But what I'm trying to say here is that I think you either do a design on a slide, a theme on a slide, or you do it yourself. Now to reset backgrounds, you can click this button. That'll take the Waterloo off, the Waterloo picture off. If I go to themes and select the Office default theme, that will apply to all the slides and take all of those off, and then I can reset the background, apply to all slides, and then I should be back to square one with just white slides. So that is how you can format the background. Now in terms of designs, which I'll cover in a later module, you can actually save a theme that you create, and then it will become as a custom design, like these at the top there, and then you can apply that. So you can create like a company theme. Sometimes you see themes that are a bit over the top, too many colors, and there's not much space to put any text on the slide, but we'll cover that in a later session. But next I want to talk about slide transition. So slide transition is how the slides change over once you're in full screen. So at the moment, if I go into full screen and just press enter, it's just, there is no transition, they're just appearing there. So these are the slide transitions, and I tend to always use dissolve because I think that's more professional than some of these other ones, but I'll just click on a few so you can see what they look like. There's glitter, and you've got a duration of that, so you can speed that up. If I click it again, now it goes faster, and so on and so on. Vortex, now, to me that would be a bit off-putting. That's a 4 second. If I put that down a bit quicker, yeah, that's a bit quicker, but it's still a bit off-putting. And what you don't want to do is to be distracting your audience from what you're talking about by looking at different transitions, which is exactly what I did in 1985 when I first saw PowerPoint. I can remember sitting in a classroom guessing or trying to guess what was going to happen next. These are far more superior to those themes that were around in those days, but it's the same problem. I can't remember what the course was about, but I can remember sitting looking at the themes. So I want to use dissolve, which I can't even see. There it is, dissolve, and I recommend that you apply it to all slides. So all slides, because again, if you have different transitions on different slides, it becomes a distraction, and that's not what you want. So that is on every slide. So if I put that into full screen, you can see now it dissolves in as you go on to each slide. And you can increase the time by using this time duration button if you think that's too slow or too fast, and then apply that to all. Now on the end of this you've got no sound, and you've got advanced slide on mouse click or after a time. So if I take that off for a second and say let's put this at 1 second, which is obviously too quick, apply to all. Now if I put that into full screen, that should just go by itself as fast as it can, and still applying the themes and still applying the transition, and then you come down. So that's a way of manually setting a time. I'm just going to put that back onto mouse click and apply it to all, because if I don't, it will be on 1, so they're all off. Now where you've got sound at the top there, you've got all these preset sounds that you can select, which I usually tell my classes that these are very old-fashioned. In fact, these haven't changed for years, and usually when people do a PowerPoint course, they start putting these on, and they are very, very irritating. Now, the only way I would put a sound on a PowerPoint these days would be when an audience is coming into the room. It's sometimes, if you're quite nervous and it's a big audience, it's quite hard to get their attention when you're ready to start. So if you play music at the beginning of your presentation, and then when you're ready to start, you stop the music, that will automatically make everybody look up, and then it's your job then to grab their attention there and then. So that's what I'm going to try and do now. So I'm going to other sound, which I am going to put the Blue Danube on. So the Blue Danube will play on this slide, and then there it's playing there. Now I'm going on to the second slide, and on that one I'm going to say stop previous sound. So when I put this presentation into full screen, there's the sound playing. So this would be people coming into the auditorium or into the room where you're doing the presentation, saying hello to each other, talking, having a coffee and things like that. When you're ready to go with the presentation, you just press enter, it stops the sound, and this slide wouldn't be French Forces, it would be your first slide, and then it's up to you then to engage with the audience and do your bit. So that's all I want to cover on this little session. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next one. In this module, I want to look at the transition morph. So in this example, I have a small organizational chart which I have set to the transition of morph, and it's applied to all slides. So basically I've created the organizational chart on this slide, and then slightly different on the next slide, and next slide again just focusing on this bit, changing the focus to the sales department, and then the last one changing it to the retail department. Now if I start at the beginning and put that into full screen, now there's no animation on this, it's just the morph as a transition feature. When I press enter, that will morph into the first thing that I set up, which was the training department. So I can just focus on the training department, everything else is just faded out. I've just got the fonts to disappear. Press and enter again, the training department disappears, the sales department gets focus, and once more the retail department now gets focused and the sales department disappears. And then that's the end of the morph process. So what I want to do is recreate this from scratch. So if I just delete all of these slides, delete, and give myself a new slide. I don't really need any text boxes, so I'll go for a blank slide. And then I need the organizational chart, which is in the Smart Art feature. If I click on that, it's under hierarchy, and this is the one I want. And I don't want this one, so I'll just click on that, delete that, and then I'll start off my process with the first part of the chart. So MD Mr. Green, coming down just 3 departments, training, Miss White, retail, or sales in fact, sales, Mr. Black, and retail, Mr. or Mrs. running out of colours, brown. So that's my first slide. So what I now need to do is copy that slide. So I'm just going to use Control and C and then Control V straight away to copy that. So the second slide is exactly the same as the first slide at the moment, but now I need to change this slightly. So on the training department, I need to basically go to the Smart Art and add 2 shapes, and then just quickly change the layout so they're side by side, standard, and then do 2 assistants, Mrs. Jones, and assistant number 2, Mr. Red. Now all the rest of it needs to lose focus, so what I'm going to do is just basically get rid of the font color. So I'll change that from white to no fill, and do the same with that one, no fill, and the same with that one, no fill. So they've now got the focus, and then copy this slide again and do Control V to paste it. And now I need to get this slide to lose its font color, so just go to that one, and then that one. I could use a format painter I suppose, but started doing it this way now. So now I need to delete this shape and that shape and bring the font back on the middle one, so back to white, and then add 2 shapes. So add shape, and then to set the layout you need to go back into the sort of management level, layout, standard, side by side, and then you do your assistants again, Mrs. Jones, probably using the same names over and again, it doesn't matter, Mrs. Brown, and then that's that one. And then you copy that slide, Control C and then Control V straight away, and then you change this one. So I just don't want these 2, get rid of that one, get rid of that one, change the font back to no fill, bring the font to white on this one, and then you do the same again. You go back to the Smart Art design, add shape, click on the management level, and then you set that to standard, and you do your 2 assistants, assistant Mr. Black or Mrs. Black, assistant number 2, Mr. Brown. Now that is how I want this to be. Now to use the morph function, you just basically go to the transitions and select morph and apply to all. Now what you've got to avoid when you do this is pressing your return key or your enter key too quickly, because it'll just bounce through everything and you won't actually see what's going on. So if I put this into full screen, presentation mode, there's my first screen. I press my mouse and it focuses on training Miss White and the assistants. Press it again, sales comes to the fore and you get the 2 assistants. Press it again, retail comes to the fore and you get the 2 assistants. And then you press it again and you get nothing. And then you're back to your screen when you press it again. So that is how the morph transition works. You just transitioning from one slide to another. And as long as you've got your slide set up like this, that'll work fine. You can also do it, if I get myself another slide there, you can do it with text. You can do it with, if I bring shapes in, so you've got 3D icons, you've got 3D models. If I just see if I can get one of these, you can see what I'll do. Let's do a dinosaur. Why not? Whatever that is, a triffid. So if I insert a triffid, you can then get that to move from one side of the screen and then to another side of the screen if you just copy the slide and allow the morph to do its business. So this is instead of creating multiple animations and having the problem with that. So what you've got on this one, if I, whatever that is, it is a triffid, isn't it? Yeah. So I have it facing that way. I copy my slide and paste it, so I've got it on that one. And just pause that for a minute. So on this second slide, I want to get it to face the other way. And if I do it again, if I copy that slide and then paste it a third time, and then just pause that for a minute. What can I get it to do now? Let's get it to do that. Okay, so morph is on all slides still. But if I go from this slide, let's see what happens here. So there it does its business. It's quite scary, really. Press enter and it does that bit. It's not really showing anything. So you can do it with text, you can do it with diagrams, you can do it with shapes, and obviously you can do it with these 3D models. I'll just press escape to come off that. And that is the end of this little session on how to use the morph transition. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for your time. In this session, we're going to look at slide animations. So first of all, I'm going to click on the animations tab, and we can see at the moment that they're all grayed out. That's because I haven't selected a text box. So if I select this text box, you can see that these are now active. If I drop this arrow down, you can see the different ones. So green means entrance, emphasis is yellow, exit red, and then you've got more motion paths at the bottom. And then each of the elements has extra options. These are the extra entrance effects you can select. And then you've obviously got extra emphasis, exit, and motion paths, which I'll just click on because these are quite cool. Lots of different styles that you can use there. Now I'm going to activate the animation pane, which comes up on the right hand side of the screen. This will show you your animations, and I'm just going to apply a simple entrance float. Now for most of these effects you can add effect options like that, down, all at once, and so on, wheel, and then effect options like that for that one. Now I tend to use a feature called dissolve in, which is not in this initial list, so I would have to go down to more entrance effects and select dissolve in, and then there you see a little number 1, it's coming in all together. Effect options for that, all at once, by paragraph, so that's coming in blocks of 2. So that's how you add a simple animation, and you can see it in the animation pane there. Now if I add pulse, which is an emphasis, what happens is when you click animation through this feature, it overwrites the previous animation. So now I don't have dissolve, I just have pulse. And then if I selected an exit, that would overwrite pulse, and then you don't have the other two. So in my classes, I tell people, if you're in a rush, that's a quick way of putting something on, a simple animation. But to be more effective, you should add your animation through this feature. Now, before I start on that one, I'm going to delete the previous animation. Still need to click on the text box. Normally you don't animate the title, but you can do. The reason being is if you click a slide over and it is animated, there will be nothing there at the top. So unless you're absolutely 100% certain about what's coming next, you shouldn't do that. So you can see the title of the slide. Personal preference, obviously. Now, through this option, add animation, you have the same effects, but what this will allow you to do, if you select them from this option, it will allow you to layer the effects. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing with dissolving. More entrance, dissolving, click OK to that. Now if I have a look at that in full screen, so you can just see how that would sit. So I'm now pressing my mouse and they're coming in as a pair, and then I'm down to the next slide and so on through to the end. Now if you don't want them to come in as a pair, you can have a look at effect options for this. That's as a paragraph, so it doesn't give you an option to come in individually like Napoleon and then guards. So to do that, you need to use the animation pane, which I've still got active, and in there you've got a down arrow with effect options. Before I do that, I'll just open these up so you can actually see all the items on the slide. So in effect you could do options, effect options for each element if required. But in this example, I want to apply the same effect for all the bullets. Effect options. So you have sound. I'm not going to put any sound on a bullet. That is very irritating if every time you press your mouse there is a noise. But this is quite cool. Don't dim. I'm going to get my text to change colour when it's lost focus. I'm going to pick a yellow colour actually. Yellow. And then you've got animate text all at once. Yes. Timings will come back to in a later session, but text animation is where I want to focus for this. At the moment it's on level 1, which means it all comes in as a paragraph, as you saw before. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. If I change that to level 2, that would come in like Napoleon, then guards, then ney, then cavalry, then murat, and then artillery. And what I tell my classes usually is to go to level 5. That will cover any eventuality. If you decided to do another indent underneath guards, you've already got it covered. It will come in individually. So that's what I want. Click OK to that. And you can see the preview there as shown. But what happens in full screen? Let's have a look. So now I'm talking about Napoleon. Press enter. Napoleon changes colour, loses focus, and I'm now talking about guards. Looking at that now on my screen, I probably wouldn't use that yellow, it's too bright, so that looks like Napoleon's still got focus. But you can see what's happening each time I press my mouse. I will get a change of colour and a new item. Now when you get to the bottom of your slide, another bullet hasn't appeared, and the last thing is yellow, which tells me that is the last item on this slide. So I always try and do that on all my slides, even though I do tell people to try and keep to 3 points. Sometimes that's not possible. So if you've got 5 points or 6 points and things like that, if you've set this up like this, the last thing that you press will stay the fade out color, so you know the next click is a new slide. And that's how I set mine up. So there we go. Now before, when I showed you using these animations, we could not layer the animations, but now watch what happens. If I click add animation and for example do grow and shrink, so it's going to happen, but it sits underneath the previous one. It hasn't overwritten it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these individually underneath each of the words. So in fact I'll just do the first two. So, and then just play from the top, see what happens there. So it's growing, guards is growing, and the rest of it comes in. So if I do move them into position, you can see this is how this animation pane works, and this can become quite cluttered if you've got too many animations going on the same slide. So each one of those. Now another animation I would like is dissolve out, which is not in this list. So I need to select more, exit effects, dissolve out. Okay, and the same process, click on each one of these, move them into position. So after it's zoomed up, it wants to disappear. And same with that one, same with Nay, same with cavalry, and same with artillery. Got one there, Murat. Okay, so I think that's right. But as always, check it in full screen. So press and enter, should zoom up. Next click, should disappear. Next click. Now guards flashed quite quick there and disappeared. And then everything else is going to do the same. So basically the indents are coming on too quick and just flashing off. So if I press escape and have a look at why that's happening. So on Napoleon was okay. So that was on click. So I'm gonna, Napoleon was on click. Yeah, I want that on click. Let's just do the duration a little bit longer for this. So that's add the duration a little bit longer on that one. See what happens now. So press and enter, zooming up. So dissolve out should be next. So now it's a lot slower. So that's how you change the duration if your effect is disappearing too quick. You've also got a delay option there, so you can actually delay the effect, and you can set this to come up automatically by selecting with previous or after previous. It's totally up to you. So that's how you do that sort of animation. Now the other animation which we haven't looked at, I'm just going to get myself a blank slide, is the motion path. And to do that, let me just get rid of these boxes. So layout blank, and then insert a picture. So I need to just get some photos. Waterloo photos, Dragoon. Here's my little man. Just make him small. So push him into the corner. So the first effect, back to animations, the first effect is going to be dissolve in. So again, I'm going down to more entrance effects, dissolve in. It's totally up to you which effect you like, but I just think this is more professional. So that's going to dissolve in. Then I want to use a motion path to get them to move across the screen. So I'll use these default ones first. So custom, that will allow me to scribble across the screen. He's basically going to follow this, and then to finish the scribble you double click and then off he goes. So in full screen, you click, he dissolves in, you click, and then he follows that custom path, off he goes. So that's how you do that. Now that is just a quick look at a custom path, but to show a better example of that, you may want to insert, in fact let me just open Excel. If I just copy and paste a table from Excel into that, if I've got anything in here that we can use, charting is what I'll use. So I'll just copy this table, which is about the Battle of Waterloo casualties. Just minimize that and just paste it on this slide. So there's my table. So now what I could do is I could insert a shape like a circle. So I'll click on the circle. I'm just going to hold my shift key down while I draw this circle so I get a perfect circle. And I don't want any fill, so no fill. I want the outline to be red, and I also want the outline to be thicker than that. So the weight, I'm going to put it up to 2, and then I'm going to position it over this figure like so, and then do the animation. So animation dissolve in is the one I'm going to choose again. Dissolve in, so that will come in. Now I want to use an animation path, not one of these in this list. More motion paths, because there's one as you scroll further down it says right, because I want this to move to the right. Click on right. And now I need to move it a little bit further, so you position your mouse over that circle and you can move it onto the total at the end. So now it's moved to there. Now I want to add another animation, and I want that to pulse. So that should just move to the end and pulse. Now let's have a quick look at that. So it moves to the end and it's pulsed on a click. Okay, so I don't want that last one on a click. I want that to go with previous, and I also want it to pulse more than once. So going into effect options, and now I'm going on to the timings tab, and then where it says repeat, I'm going to change that to 10. Okay, now that should pulse 10 times. So if I put that into full screen, click the mouse, and then it comes. So now focus on the total for the 15th of June 1815. Click my mouse, it moves across the grand total and starts flashing while I'm talking. Now you can do that with any shape. Could be arrows pointing at figures, budget figures moving up, moving down. It's a very effective way to present in PowerPoint using the custom animation or the advanced animation. That's the end of this session, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for your time. In this section, I want to look at how to create an animated GIF. So on the screen, I've already got one set up. This is the first slide. So I've animated this slide. You can see the animations there with my logo on the top. And then I've saved that as an animated GIF and then inserted it back in just to show you how this works by going insert picture, and then it's brought this in. Now if I put this into full screen, you can see what the end product is, and then I'll go through how I did it. So basically it's just animating those elements and playing over and over again. So you can do cartoon characters and all sorts of stuff, but I'm being a bit serious with these modules. So that's the plan. So what I'm going to do is delete that and delete this slide and delete that slide and start from scratch. So I want to insert some images from this computer, and I need to get them from here. So I want that one. In fact, I don't need to do it one at a time, do I? I can do it several at once. So I want Excel, Outlook, just basically all the Office ones, PowerPoint project, Teams, Visio, Word, and insert them all, and just click away, get rid of these design ideas, leave the animation pane on, just separate these off so you can position them to where you want. And then what I also need is my logo, which I haven't actually got here at the minute, but if I just insert that as well, pictures, this device, and go to, where is it, business, archive, logos, and that one I'll do. And that's huge, so I'll just make that a lot smaller than that. So these are the objects I want. So now it's a case of positioning these onto the slide, and then animating them in. So first off, I want to get rid of these boxes, so I'm just going to change the layout to a blank slide. Not that that makes any difference. And then I'm going to animations, and I'm using this feature, add animation. I've got the animation pane on the right there so I can see what's going on. So add animation, and the animation that I like to use is dissolve in. So I'm going to click on that and then position each one of these how I want them, and then dissolve that one in as well. So basically going to quickly go through and just set these up in 2 banks of 4 and then get them to animate in, dissolve in. Obviously you don't have to use dissolve in, you can use whichever one you prefer. And if any of these don't line up, you can just nudge them left or right a little bit with your arrow keys and make sure everything's lined up the best that you can get it. So more entrance effects, dissolve in, and then the last 3, bring that back a bit, more entrance effects, dissolve in. So now I'm going to use my arrow key to nudge that right slightly, dissolve in, and then lastly teams, which this box is not the right size, so I'm just going to have to squash it up a little bit and then elongate that so it matches up with the Visio one above, like so, and then dissolve that one in, dissolve in, and then I probably need to just move all these down, so I've just grouped them all. No, I didn't, I missed 2. So now I've knocked that out of sync a little bit, so just bring that one down and that one down. Just check that, still down a little bit more. That's okay, that could probably come down a little nudge. That's okay. Now I've got them all selected. I can bring them all down as a group, move them across into the center maybe. And then last but not least, to bring in my logo and then animate that. Dissolve in, okay. So play from the top, this is how I want it to go. Click on the top one, play from the top. So that looks okay. Yep, I'll probably move that into the center a little bit. I could put the grid lines on and ruler to measure that properly. Can you see the center mark there? Which I might just do actually. Just knock that over a little bit onto the center. And then you know it's dead center. Now the last step is to save this as an animated GIF. So you go File, Export, and it says there Create Animated GIF. Gives you some options to select however you want it. I'm going to leave it on the one it's on, medium. And then you just create, and it asks you to save it. So I'll call this GIF 3. As you can see, I've already done it a couple of times. And I'll save that. And then what you do now is you just bring that into your presentation as a image. So picture, this device, and that was in documents. So go into documents and it's GIF 3. Bring it in. It doesn't actually show anything, but there it is. Now design ideas is popped up. And I can get rid of the animation pane. But now if I put this into full screen, it does that, the animation for you. See a little mistake on it on the right there, and the Teams one's not nudged in enough, but it doesn't matter, I could just do it again. But that's a great little feature in Microsoft PowerPoint where you can create your own little animated images. It could just be a logo, it could be something like this, just to attract the attention. And that's the end of this little session, so I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for your time. Hi guys, welcome to this Microsoft PowerPoint session. In this session, I want to have a look at 3D models, which is on the Insert tab, and you can see it's part of the Illustrations group. First bit, you've got shapes, which are these are the old shapes that have been around quite a while in PowerPoint. You've then got icons, which are fairly new. Lots of different groups of icons. These replace the old clip art. Show my age by saying that, but there are hundreds and hundreds of different icons that you can select, I'll just cancel that. And also, if I go to pictures, just because I want to get something off here, stock images, you've got lots and lots of stock images. And again, you've got a little search thing there. So I'll search for C because I want this turtle. Do I want this turtle? Yeah, let's go for this turtle. So I'll have this turtle as my background. Now, I want them to fit on the whole slide, so I'll just stretch it slightly, like so. So he's in the front. Now, I might have to send him to the back later on, but let's have a quick look at this. So I want to insert a 3D model. So when you drop the arrow down, you get this device, that's if you've got any on your computer, and this stock 3D models. And again, similar to the icons, you've got the search option at the top. So I'm going to search for fish, and it gives me a set of fish that you can select from. Lots of different fish, some of it stranger than others. The one I want to get for this little demo is this one. So it's got a little symbol in there, which means this moves. They don't all move. You can move them and rotate them, which I'll show you in a second, but if I click on that, it takes a little while to download, and then you download the model that you like, and it should load up like that. So you can see them straight away that they are moving, they are swimming. And if I put that into full screen, you can see them swimming away in full screen. Now, if I go in to 3D models again and get a different one, so if I go this stock images and search for fish again, do I want that? Is that a shark? No, it looks like a trout, but I think it might be. No, it doesn't matter. I love that one. Insert. So some of these don't move. You have to move them yourself, but you can rotate them. So this one is just a fish that I can rotate, but it's not actually doing anything spectacular by itself, which is not really what I want, because that's just a bit like the turtle background. So I'm not going to have that one. So I'll go back in there and look for something else. So what I'll do is I'll search for shark. Now that one's moving, it's got a little symbol on it, so if I get that one, insert that one. I saw a big set of teeth further down, I could have got that one, chasing the turtle. So there the shark is swimming away in the background, coming after this turtle. So if I put that into full screen, there you go. So with these 3D models, you can get quite a dramatic or impressive slide. It's a pity the turtle's not moving actually. There isn't one for a turtle that I've found. Press escape for that. I just want to delete these off for now on this one and get myself a new slide and insert another one, a different set this time. So if I go back in there, you've got lots of different categories like that one, and that's very similar to one called biology, and you can bring these little things in. This one hasn't got all the major organs, so if I go back, go into biology. So this is great for kids if you've got kids doing homework and need a quick look at something. So I'm going down to find the heart, and you see the little movement symbol there for the heart. So that's the one I want. Bring that in. So you can use this with all the other features in PowerPoint. You know, pointing arrows to things and explaining what things are. But this is the main one, the moving. If I put that into full screen, you'll see it doing it. It's quite strange to be honest. But let's do a little arrow, little shape arrow pointing at something. So you can still type on these and it should say what it is. Change the font down a little bit, in fact quite a lot, you know, so and then you can make that. Now obviously you can still print this off, it doesn't move when you print it off unless somebody's invented some paper that's interactive like they do on Star Trek. But it's great for schoolwork. If you're doing anything on the heart, you can label this off. So pulmonary vein, pulmonary arteries, aorta, things like that. All these things, left ventricle, right ventricle. You can you can spin this around so you can see the inside of it. Now if you find it difficult to do this, that's a bit weird as well, you can use the features on the top in the 3D model tab. So you've got all of these different positions that I rotated through available from these, and that's the same with all the models, the 3D models you bring in. So you can do it yourself by selecting this little icon, or use these preset ones at the top. And if it's a movable one, you can turn that off and you can pause it and you can go and get a different one that's back into the models, and you can reset this if you've messed it up, so it puts it back to what it was on initially. So I'll just delete that one off. The reason I'm deleting it off, I think it might just be my computer, but earlier I had about 6 or 7 running at the same time and the computer didn't like it at all and kicked me out, so that's why I'm deleting them off. Now let's go for biology again. So find biology. Can't find it, gone past it I think. Biology. So what have I got there? There's the only moving one I think was the heart. None of these other ones seem to be moving. So I'll just get this, the kidneys, and have a look at that one. So this is more of a static one. So my layout is this default layout. You should probably have just have a blank slide. So on this one, look, you haven't got the motion option, but you just still got these things across the top. But that's blue for vein, red for artery, and you can see how all that works, and that's your bladder, I take it. But that's a quick look at some of the 3D models. So there's quite a lot to choose from, and I'm sure there's loads more that you can get online. Industrial ones, you're looking for the little symbol in the corner if it's a moving one. Stickers, none of these seem to have the little moving man in the corner. Okay, that one does. Spoke too soon there. What's that? Let's have a quick look. I think the ones that move are much better. Falling leaves. Okay. Falling leaves. A turtle. Okay. Now let's get rid of these. Get rid of that one. Come back onto this one. Now it seems to have deleted my little fish. I don't remember doing that, but it's disappeared. But it doesn't matter, you get the idea. That's how you use the 3D models. So that's all I want to talk about in this exercise. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.